But if you know me at all, you know I don't care for snakes. I don't like anything that startles me, and I'm trying to desensitize myself to that fear because I have many a times been out here and picked up one unknowingly. Ugh. Like picked up a thing of mulch and then put it down and the snake crawl out. Ugh. Hey guys, what's up? It's Heather with the Moscow, and today we are out doing a tour of the production / vegetable garden. Again, if you don't know me, my name is Heather. This is the Moscow, where we are learning to garden together and trying things out even when conditions aren't perfect. And today we are out in the production garden. Now, I've got a few things to say. I realize that it's spring, and spring is not supposed to be as hot as summer, but I live in East Tennessee, gardening in Zone 7B. And we live out here in the woods, and it is beautiful and it is glorious, and it's one of the things that I love about where we live is this number right here. But that does make production gardening challenging because in reality, this is maybe not as full sun as one would hope. But we've been planting here for several years now, and if we plan strategically, we do get a decent amount of production. Would we get more production if we had more sun? I think so, but we're working with what we've got. I recently finished planting everything and kind of weeding everything and getting it ready, and I wanted to show you guys what we're starting with this summer. Now, what I was starting to say before I got sidetracked about the woods and how beautiful it is it is May. It is May 7th. It is only 60 degrees out here, and while being cloudy is wonderful for making videos, it is horrible for my mood, okay? I want a bright, sunny, hot day. I want summer. I am ready for it, and I'm glad to be out here, but sometimes this has been a lot of just work and not very rewarding. I mean, it is rewarding because it looks good, but you know what I mean. So I thought we'd come out here and take a spin around the space. Now, for starters, this area back here, we have it. A couple years ago, Jason tilled it for me. After he tilled it, when we tilled it the first time, I put a lot of compost in the ground. The second time we tilled it in again, and I had been adding compost. So this dirt is a lot more nutrient dense and a lot more fluffy than when we started. So we don't till it anymore, but it's been here for a couple years. Now you'll notice all of this area behind me is just mulch, and that's because we discovered last year that stuff won't grow past where we have it. So the way that this came about was, this is the closest to a full sun spot that we have. So we came out here and we tilled it and we started growing in this area. This is probably our third or fourth year. I think it's our fourth year. I think the first year we had all the rows this way. The second year we had some of the rows this way and then some rows that way. Last year we had all the rows this way, and this year we had all the rows this way. One of the things that we've added over time as well is because of the pack of puppies that love to eat all the plants, this one is fenced in now, which means that the yard cat, Dr. Fluffenschmerz, who has happened to show up and is very upset because I like to usually feed him several hours ago at this point, and he has not received his food for the day. He is unhappy with me. I will feed him when we get done with this video. So a couple things else about this, everything that I have is run on drip irrigation. We get a lot of rain here, plenty of rain here in East Tennessee to make most things happy. However, I work a very wonky schedule with long hours. Like I just worked 15 days in a row, and most of them were 11.5-hour days. You have to have a way to automated water in case you run into a drought situation. We like to travel, so it is hooked up on drip, and it is hooked up on drip tape. The reason we've used drip tape out here instead of drip tubing is because the drip tape runs a lot further than the drip tubing, and quite frankly, it's easier to lay out. So we've got that going for us here as well. So let's turn around and take a look at what we've got. So again, if you'll notice, same as last year, we had mulch here. Now I had this mulch last year. We had a truckload of mulch brought in and we tractored it up here. The way that I find one of my biggest goals for this year is to make sure that we can maintenance this area and keep after it. And like everything else in my adult life, I'm finding that small efforts constantly, consistent small efforts are much better than big efforts all the time. So you'll notice there's some leaf matter in here. What I do is use a hula hoe and I just loosen it all up. It refreshes the mulch. It pushes around it gets rid of the weeds, and it just refreshes it and fluffs it up. So I didn't add any mulch this year. Probably next year I will have to remulch the whole thing again. I did this fall. You'll see there's a pile of leaves still there, but come through and rake all the leaf material back out. So it starts here, and closer this way you get more shade, closer that way you get more sun. So things that are closer this way don't need as much sun, and things that are over there are either high priority crops or crops that just won't at all produce without the sun. So we have this walkway here that takes us down. So along this line, because it's a trellis, I have put cucumbers all the way along here. Now I am concerned that some people, Ray, she sees the kitty, Ray, might try to eat the cucumbers, namely Minoru, the lab, but we are going to try it anyhow, and we've got cucumbers in 3 different places because that's a high priority crop for me this year. If you saw my planting video, you saw that. So cucumbers all along here. Another thing that I kind of want to mention quickly is when I made my plan out, and this changes from year to year. Sometimes you're just all about the cut flowers. Sometimes you've got a lot of leftover produce from last year. We do not have the goal of like cooking or preserving enough for us to save for a year, but if that was your goal, then you would base it upon how much you needed for what. The crops that I need the most of would be cucumbers, because I am out of fresh pickles. I have had fresh pickles at my disposal, homemade, for 2 years, and I can't go back to store-bought. I'm trying and it's not working. I can cook them and stuff, but I can't eat them plain, and it's really unfortunate. So lots and lots of pickles. So I have cucumbers here. I have cucumbers in 3 places, and that might be overkill, but again, I'm worried that some of them are going to get eaten, and therefore I overplanted them. The second crop that is of high priority to me is I'd like to have enough tomatoes this year to can. I generally have a hard time producing a lot of tomatoes, and I think it's because we're not exactly full sun, and I was going to put in more tomato plants than I put in, but tomatoes are always a priority. I think they're a lot of people's priority in their vegetable gardens. This garden serves 2 purposes. It gives us produce, but also cut flowers, and we like to have fresh cut flowers every week if we can. So we've done that. The other thing that's a big priority is okra. I had a lot of okra last year, but I didn't make any pickled okra. So I want cucumbers that are pickled. I want plenty of frozen okra, which I have still from last year because I had so many, and I want pickled okra. The other thing that I've done here, and we'll get back to these lines, is green beans. I would like to pickle some green beans. So all the pickles. Another priority for us this year, which doesn't necessarily apply to this production area, it's going to go in our new raised beds, is squash. I have just struggled so much with squash vine borer that burrows into the stem, and then by the time it's about to set squash and it looks so promising, and it dies. So I'm really going to be tackling that, and that's why I put them down there. So hopefully new soil, new area, maybe they won't find them, and on top of some other protective measures. So let's get back to the tour. So along this line here, we've got cucumber. Now over here, we've got 2 rows of green beans. And the reason I put the green beans in these 2 rows is because I had them here last year. I had them here last year, and they did fantastic. And by having 2 rows, I should have enough to can and enough to pickle. So the way that I've done these, these are all bush green beans. And so everything here, I scraped up all the old weeds, and then I put in Biotone starter fertilizer, and then I top dressed it all with the straw. Couple reasons: the straw will hold in the moisture, the straw will hold back the weeds slightly, and it breaks down into good organic material. In fact, I should have done it for every bed, but this bed last year I covered it in straw for the winter. I put it to bed and covered it in straw, and this bed was so fluffy and the soil looks so good this year that I want to make a point to do that this year as well. In between all these rows is mulch, and this mulch has just been kicked up again There's Dr. Fluffenschmertz. Hey, Dr. Fluffenschmertz has been kicked in again. Several members of Jason's family are allergic to cats, so we cannot keep a cat inside. We did not seek out this cat. He just started living here. And so I put food out for him. There's a heated cat house. Also, my dogs absolutely would love to eat this cat. But anyhow, he's welcome to stay for that reason. So we've got green beans in these 2 rows. This is all cut flowers. So I started these in the fall and they looked terrible, and I do need to bring a staking system out. I'll probably do the stakes with the netting again. And I thought they were all dead because they were sticks, but they have so come back and so look good, and we might have our best crop of sweet peas we've ever had. I have tried so many times to grow sweet peas and I struggle. I started these ornamental basil inside and I neglected all of my indoor crops. Hey, buddy. But, weird sign on my camera. Anyhow, and so they're here. Hopefully they do okay. We've got a couple things of marigolds that we started inside here. That did so well for me last year. These are the big, tall ones. This is some Dara that's self-seeded. So I left it because I wanted Dara again. In fact, I started seeds here, the seeds I started. But I didn't take good care of it. But here it is, taking care of itself. So then over here, I got all my packets of Cosmos and just did some chaos gardening and sprinkled them over the top of the soil, mixed them in really quick, not worried about spacing or planting officially, and then put the straw over them. In the next row here, we have our peppers and eggplants. So we've got several jalapenos, and then I've got different types of eggplants. 1, 2, 3, 4 eggplants there. Another jalapeno plant we started inside. Another jalapeno that we bought. And then there's these 2 plants here. This one's an eggplant, and this one's another pepper. Somewhere in there, there's a shishito pepper, and there may or may not be a mini bell pepper, because I left these where I have other plants that are close to a flower bed that the dogs will get beeped at if they get close to, but I clearly had it too far away because they ate them. So anyhow, this whole row though is gonna be peppers and eggplant. Eggplant, I love eggplant. I'm the only person in my family that eats it, but I eat a lot of it. As a general rule, I try to eat between 12 and 1,500 calories a day. And a lot of times I will have like a ground beef that is seasoned in some particular way with roasted veggies. And eggplant is a great one to roast, as are all the squashes. So that's another reason I'm really excited to have squash this year. This row is a whole row of zinnias. And then we've got a whole row of corn. The zinnias I will stake, but I am trying more chaos gardening with that. I put a couple rows in, and then I just sprinkled. I had some Benary's Giant, and I had some Queen Lime Orange, and some Queen Lime something else, and some Polar White, and some cactus zinnias, and I threw them all in one packet and shook them up and spread them out. And a couple things about zinnias. Again, because we are not exactly as full sun as I'd like to be, they'll probably get a little leggy, so I will need to stake. I have to stake out here pretty heavy. But they do so well, and they look so pretty. And when I get back from Disney every time, and I'm hoping I have this year again because I'm a little late planting. My last frost date was April 15th, and it was May before these went in. They're usually just blooming their heads off, and you come home to this glorious, really bright display, and it's really pretty in the garden, and it will help with pollinating of my corn. So, or hopefully it'll attract pollinators to pollinate my corn. So it's in there, it's all the way down. We will put some kind of staking device up, but I did not worry about spacing. I just made 2 rows, sprinkled them in. So then there's that. So then of course we've got, I'll turn you back around so you can kind of see where we're at. So we've got our sweet peas, not sweet peas, snapdragons, peppers, and eggplant. And I'll probably put some Tithonia at the end of this bed because there's nothing in there right now. And then all the zinnias, all the corn. And here we've got this container, I just chop it back every year, but it's chives, and it just does really well. It's great right there. We do need to plant our containers up with something pretty, and I do need to get into mazel basil. Over here we do have a container of blackberries. We've got blueberries, and all of those are putting on a lot of growth. There are baby birds living in my porch, and that's what you're hearing there. But we do need some mazel basil for these containers as well. Along this fence line, we have another row of cucumbers. And on these two, so these trellises here were on those T-posts there, but we've moved them down here. So this one has my dahlia tubers, followed by okra and a line of sunflowers. We will also start throwing in sunflowers just wherever anything finishes up, generally how we do it. And this one has all of our tomatoes. So we've got our tomatoes that we bought. So we've got one cherry tomato here at the end. And then all of these, for the most part, there's a couple heirlooms, and then they're better boys because we're looking for production. And then there's the ones that I grew inside. I didn't even harden them off. I just had extra room. I gave up on them. But they're looking like they might try to do something, so we'll give them an opportunity to do so. And then the cat house. That's everything that I've got planted in here. So the goal is to be better about keeping the weeds down and keeping it looking 80% like this. And the way I want to do that is come out every morning. I've gotten very consistent about waking up every morning, most mornings. 4 days a week, I come downstairs and I work out. I do one run, one session that's arms and legs, one that's legs and abs, and one that's arms and abs. So I work out 4 days a week, and usually takes me about 30 minutes. And I've gotten really consistent with that. I've been doing that for about 5 months. And so I'm trying to add in the consistency of coming outside with my hula hoe and then just weeding something for 15, 20 minutes. So coming out here and doing 2 rows every day, I think will be plenty to keep the weeds 80% at bay, especially, you know, keeping the ground cover on these things, keeping the straw on these things, and keeping after it. Hopefully will help. So hopefully we'll have this whole fence line full of cucumbers, that whole fence line full of cucumbers, and this will just be really good to go. I am a little less than thrilled with the fact that it is May and I'm just now getting stuff in the ground. I still need to go plant my raised beds. But we do have a long growing season. My first frost is not until the end of October, so I'm not that stressed about it. But I love how it's looking right now. And it's probably not gonna look any better than this because you know how when you first do it, it looks the best. I've spent days out here. So let's take one final look around. Hopefully it's gonna be full of lush plants here shortly. But I'm just really thrilled with it right now and happy with how tidy it's looking and that my efforts are paying off. Also, there's these little like 4 or 5 inch little black snakes. Not black, they're brown. We have looked them up before. They're not poisonous. But if you know me at all, you know I don't care for snakes. I don't like anything that startles me, and I'm trying to desensitize myself to that fear because I have many times been out here and picked up one unknowingly. Ugh. Like picked up a thing of mulch and then put it down and the snake crawl out. Ugh. And I'm trying to desensitize that to myself because before that would stop my productivity and stop me from working altogether. But yesterday I kicked up 3 snakes and I let them just nestle themselves back in, and I just moved a couple inches over and kept working. Did I think the whole time I was out here, when I'm doing this raking motion, that I was gonna kick up a snake, it was gonna get in my face, it was gonna eat me, it was gonna be horrific? Did I think that? Absolutely I did. But I didn't quit working. I didn't let it ruin my productivity, and I was very proud of myself for that. If any of you want to go reference one of the more watched videos on my channel, it's where a lizard scares the crap out of me while I'm playing stuff. And my kids love to show that to people as a party gift. They're like, oh, put on that video where you got scared. There's Minoru, most likely to eat the garden. But anyhow, just want to show you how the vegetable garden is looking right now, here in the beginning of the season, looking in its prime. So comment below what you're growing and how it's going for you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.